I want to have a conversation about what are the few keys to being a lazy multi-millionaire. Folks, we have heard time and time again, once you've won the game, stop playing. This, of course, was by our friend Dion. And we are going to talk just briefly about what are the keys to being a lazy multi-millionaire. And we're going to, of course, start with the man, myth, the legend himself, Mr. Dion. So what are some of the keys to being lazy?
Is this the topic that came from the question that you sent me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm okay with calling it out. So thank you for not trying to insult me with the question, but I will insult myself.
Okay.
A viewer reached out to Zuber and said, please have a conversation with Dion on why he is okay being so blah.
Lazy.
But yeah, the word was blah. He didn't say lazy. I said blah. And so translation is, how are you okay being a lazy multimillionaire? And what does it take to be a multimillionaire and not want more? And not be that motivated hard charger going bigger, better. Like I've learned so much from Pace, right? Like I watch his content and I take in, I'm like, okay, I could take that and I could put it in my strategy. I take that and put it in my strategy. But I do, like I told him to his face in a video, try to avoid that motivated hard charger aspect of it because, like you said, I won the game. And I'm not going to play anymore. And I think that the confusion comes in when I go, here's what it's like to do this while you're lazy. I was working full time raising 3 kids, right? I go like that. So the average person can go, oh, I'm working, I have kids, maybe I can do this, right? I talked a little bit with Matt in the comments last night about, I almost don't want to do this video. I almost am, I'm afraid of putting it out there because I try to talk about what I've done in real estate, right? Over a decade, 2 years buy a duplex, 2 years buy a duplex, year and a half buy a duplex, pay one off on mistake, buy a fourplex. Like it's very slow and stretched out. The average person can do this. And so if I cover what I've done outside of real estate, it's going to come out super arrogant. It's going to come out super cocky. It's going to come out with personality traits that I've tried to beat out of myself.
Well, let's be very clear. I think you've hit on the number one key already to being lazy, because it takes time to build the financial fortitude to get there. I think everybody wants it tomorrow. I think social media fans the flames of, even the hustle culture. Do, get, win the game. And you have always looked at this as, I don't even think a marathon's the right comparison. I think it's a 100-mile race, one of those lunatics. You saw it from day one. This is a 100-mile race. I do not need to go fast. I just need to keep moving, right? You decide to get on this journey. It takes you 2 years to pull the trigger. People in today's world don't see that those first 2 years are equally as valuable as the last 2. You stayed with it. You kept moving. It's not 100 meters. It's 100 miles. Don't sprint. Don't get stupid. Don't chase shiny objects. Keep moving forward. It takes time to run 100 miles, not 10 seconds, not 10 hours, a long freaking time. Lumberjack, you're on your phone, but I'll bring it to you. What do you think about time being one of those key elements to becoming a lazy multimillionaire?
Well, if you start out lazy, you're like everybody that doesn't do anything.
Dion was not lazy.
Right.
That 10-year commitment. People don't get it. Right.
This I know. And I think that's, I think the issue is that, when you have to start, you can take a slower path, because I don't think it's lazy, because you're doing something. Yeah. So, Dion recognized that he had to do something different. But I don't think that he knew day one that way was going to work, right? He rented it out to a friend. He was doing everything he could to get them to buy it. And thankfully they said no, and they couldn't.
Can you get closer to the mic?
Yeah. So thankfully they couldn't buy it, and they couldn't get the deal done. And so that, it was almost kind of like accidental that he's still in the game, but it was slow and steady. It was just, okay, yeah, this kind of works. And this kind of gives me what I need to be able to do. And it, gives me that retirement. So I think our plans don't start off at, I'm going to get to 200 grand a month or 100 grand a month, or the plans don't start there, and they shouldn't. They should start with, I'm going to do one. I'm going to do one, see how it goes, see what I learn, see if I like it, see if I hate it, and then just go from there. So I think that everybody, no one, I don't think any of us had that strategy of, let's get to 10. Like I didn't have that strategy. I was just kind of like, it was after I got to 4 or 5, I was like, kind of know what I'm doing. I kind of get it.
Yeah.
Like maybe I go to 10. So I don't think anything about Dion's beginning strategy was lazy. I think you have to work to get to lazy.
Well, the other thing I want to say here, we'll go back to Dion because this is really his home run swing, was he also didn't confuse himself by saying, I got to know the entire process for the decade. It's like, no, I got to do this next step. And I really think back to one guy I put on the Mount Rushmore of investors, Jason Pritchard. He jumped into real estate investing, has done all kinds of crazy things. And for him, it's always been about what's next. Like, what's the next thing I need to figure out? And I think Dion is another example of that. Is Dion wasn't sitting there, negative $200,000, responsible for 3 kids, getting laid off left, right, and center, going, I got to map out this grand vision to some financial freedom. It's like, no, I got to do X. And he did X. And then he worried about Y. And then he worried about that. But that's what we think, Dion. What's time is a big deal. So what's next?
So there's really 2 quotes that make it possible to be a lazy landlord, lazy millionaire, multimillionaire, and totally fine with it. Like, go shopping in a hoodie. My shoes probably have paint stains on them. Like, I'm not that guy that needs to be fancy. But I, like Matt has said, often when we go into any building, we're probably the richest person there. Maybe some real estate meetups where there's some people who have obviously more success than us in real estate and they're doing great. There's other investors that have more money, but when you just go out to the average place, and the first one is from Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey says, I hope you get all of the money and fame that you wish for so that you can realize how unimportant it is.
Oh, I love that one. Yes.
And I probably butchered the end. It's close to, my memory's not perfect, so I don't want to mess up, but he had a great quote on that. And so in the 10 years where I was, acquiring the rentals for financial freedom, I got laid off from being a cop. I was a police officer for 8 years. I get laid off because of the housing crash. I go to work at a CDL school as an instructor. So I'm just a CDL instructor, right? Within 6 months, I'm the company president. It didn't have the position. I had to create the position. We started with 6 staff. I grew it to 60. They made $60,000 the year that I started there in profit. It was in the multi-millions the year that I left. So I grew it to a multi-million-dollar profit business from 60 grand. I interacted with state agencies. I impacted legislation. I delayed some bills. I impacted some bills. I supported some. I joined this thing called the Northwest Career Colleges Federation. It's 112 vocational schools. So ITT, DeVry, Divers Institute of Seattle, all these CDL schools. Was quickly demoted from a member to the board to the president of the board, changed the bylaws so I can remain the president for 6 years, right? I ran the West Coast of education. I ran the West Coast of CDL training. We became the largest CDL school by 1,200% of any other school on the West Coast. All of this was in the decade while I was acquiring the rentals. So when I say do this if you're lazy, it's because this had to be something that was easy, that I can do in conjunction with raising kids. From running the Northwest Career Colleges Federation, growing the CDL school, impacting legislation, while I was going and presenting on bases in colleges at work sources, founded a nonprofit, right? Hiddenjobs.org. It was the transportation placement services, placed over 2,000 people into jobs per year while I had the nonprofit, was running all of that. So the Jim Carrey quote of, I wish you got all the money and fame you wished for, because I wanted that success. I wanted someone on the West Coast to go, okay, I'm thinking CDL, transportation, education, Dion McNeely comes up. On the bills, the legislators, state agencies would reach out to me because I had representatives that were friends, right? I became really close friends with JT Wilcox, Melanie Stambaugh, some representatives that impacted legislation that agencies would want to go through. So I was the person in my field. I didn't invest in real estate to be the person in real estate. I invested in real estate because I achieved all of that. And I looked around and I thought, mostly I have enemies. That was the result of success, is that you've displaced other people. You have competition. You have agencies that you have to fight against. You have whatever you're doing, everything that you guys have done in IT, that you were competing with somebody. And even the people
several someone's
right. Even the people on your team were competition.
Oh, yeah.
To the point of none of that mattered. None of it. Time freedom is the most important thing to me. And that comes from being lazy, wanting that.
So I want to ask this honest question. So it sounds all well and good now. I think all three of us would agree with you that time freedom is the thing that we appreciate the most, given where we are now. But I want to ask the honest question. Did you know that 10 years, like at the start of your journey? Or were you just saying, like, kind of make that connection? Because it's easy for us now to say, yeah, time freedom is great. Taking a nap midday is great. Going anywhere you want is great. But did you know, Dion, that this is what you were working for somewhere along the journey, or did it only come to you after?
So I have the idea of a video, but it's not scripted yet. And here's the Cliff Notes version. The Marines downsized after Desert Storm, so I lost the military career trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
Law enforcement downsized after the 2008 housing crash, so I lost the pension and the 20-year career that can happen in law enforcement. I was working at the CDL school. I loved the job. I enjoyed teaching. Like that's the thing I didn't know about myself, right? So I get into that. But I was going to work every day. I was like, okay, I'm now the president. We've got, like, instead of one campus, we're 3, 4, 5, and we ended up with 5 when I left. What if I do something that gets me fired? What if I can't get my med card? I can't, whatever, something, I lose this job. Because how I feel about the Marine Corps, it was taken away. How I feel about law enforcement, it was taken away. I love this teaching job. I like this company. I basically had the job. And anytime I met somebody, I go, you want a job? I can hire you tomorrow. We'll create a position for you. Just like I employed half the people I met working at that company. We'd create a position. Just had that thing, and it could go away. Well, if it went away, did I want to start over? So it wasn't, I'm going to buy rentals, reach freedom, and quit. You guys heard me. For the first few years we interacted, I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to retire.
Yeah, I remember.
Job so much. And then the freedom came, and then it became a scales, the balance of, I love my job. This is fun, but I get to live 70, 80 years. How much of this do I want to be fun, selling my life 1 hour at a time, no matter the outcome?
Yeah, I get it. I like it. Matt, what do you think? The Jim Carrey quote.
It's true. I mean, I think it's really hard to climb the mountain. And that's what we do. We climb the mountain, and it's one foot in front of the other. And the closer you get to your goal, the thinner the air gets. Yeah. And then you reach the top, and then it's okay. Now what? Well, it's okay to just scale back down the mountain.
Well, the other thing about it, I love the mountain analogy, because that's where I was going to go to too. The mountains offer vistas.
Yeah.
And you can stop.
Yeah.
You can stop. You can sit down.
Yeah, but earlier in years of my career, right? So I spent you were in IT sales for 15 years, something like that.
Yeah.
So
15, 20 years, something
like
that.
So I was 27 years, because I started so young, right? Mm-hmm. No college. Check out the next Austin video about that. But 27 years in IT sales. I was a dropout. I had to work for every position, and you wonder why I'm fiery, because everything in my life had to be.
Yeah, everything was a fight.
Everything had to be a fight, because it was always, I don't see that you went to school. Yeah, and what would you like me to do to prove to you I'm better at this than you? Like, just let me know. I'll crush you. And so the challenging thing is I love that hand-to-hand comment and being a sales guy. But in all honesty, multiple times in my career, I got calls from HR saying, we really need you to deposit your paychecks. We really need you to deposit those. Yeah. And I was like, what? They're like, they're going to start to expire. I was like, that's like 180 days. They're like, there's like 2 weeks left, and they're going to start to expire. You need to just deposit those. And honestly, like, I hadn't thought about it, because that's when I was single. I was, I hadn't started buying property yet. And so I literally looked at it, and I was just like, I just loved the game. I loved fighting. I loved doing what I did. And for me, it wasn't about a buzzer beater. It was about, how do I completely obliterate you and make
you didn't want it to be close.
No. Yeah. And I was like, I kid you not, I would send people, I mean, some of my famous moves were like sending people silver polish when they finished second.
Second, yeah.
Or I sent mini binoculars, and I was like, this is just so you can see who the winner was. Like I was incessant, but it was funny. Like it's all in good fun with sales reps, right? Like we're deranged, it's like, because you constantly get told no, and sort of like rejection's not a thing, and so you become Teflon. But what was really interesting is after I retired, so this is just in the last, 7, 8 months, in that time that I retired, it's much more like, whatever.
Yeah.
So I got a, I got a case of Dion's Blahs on me.
Yeah, no, it's addicting. I'm certainly more. I am going Dion's route. Every quarter goes by, I'm getting closer and closer. Well, Dion, you mentioned you had 2 quotes. We've heard one so far. The second one?
So this one comes from a movie because I'm a cinema guy. I like to walk down, take the ferry over, and watch movies. It's bartender advice from the movie Passengers. The bartender is talking to this guy who's kind of lost. And he says, "You're not where you want to be. You feel like you're supposed to be somewhere else. Say you could snap your fingers. I bet you'd still feel this way if you could snap your fingers and be where you wanted to be. The point is, you can't get hung up on where you'd rather be. You so hung up on where you'd rather be that you forget to make the most of where you are."
Yeah.
And if you keep moving the goalpost, if you keep saying, I can have more, it could be better, I could do the stack. I could do houses, small multifamily, I could 1031 into a 10, into a 20. I can do whatever to get bigger and bigger and more. There's no end to that. There is no
Yes.
Isn't there
That's the big one.
Yeah, agreed. Isn't there a point though? I mean, this is what I've kind of reached where it was the case of the Blahs is like, I mean, yeah, I could do a 150 unit building. I could build something. I could build a 20 unit building from scratch. I could buy a $10 million portfolio. Like I can do all these things. I just don't care enough to do it. Just like I leave it to the people that want. I just don't care enough to do it. I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. I'm not even trying to prove it to myself. I stopped having to try and prove things to myself.
That's the big one for me.
Right? Yeah.
Right. Because at the end of the day,
yeah.
I've always felt like I was behind or second or
Sure.
I've always had this just Zuber, you're behind. You've got to keep going forward, no matter what I was doing. I always felt like the underdog, and it served me well.
Yeah.
But like you, I've been out since 18.
Yeah.
February 2nd or 3rd of 18. That's a long freaking time.
Long time.
And I just don't have that fire in the belly. Yeah. I've given up on impressing others a long time ago. It's like, but what you just said about even yourself, that's the big one that I started to see recently. Is like, kind of like Dion's quote just freaking sticks with me. You won the game. Why are you still playing? It's like, so yeah, it's pretty interesting. So what else do we got, Dion? Keys to being a lazy multimillionaire.
Don't take this the wrong way.
Sure.
Surround yourself with the right lazy people. Right? You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I'm not sitting in Grant Cardone's office.
Right.
I'm not. I'll watch some content, but I'm not hanging out with Gary Vee. Right. I love to learn from them. I love the energy. Like I'll watch Chris Crone because the energy in his videos, but I don't want to spend time with people like that. I want to spend time with people who reached time freedom, who had the strategies to get there, and then find the people who also know how to relax.
I like it. Yeah, one of the things that I'm starting to realize more and more and more is we've got to be purposeful about our networks, right? For the longest time, everything was virtual. The two of us, Millennial Mike, we throw on this event in Vegas, right? In February, that in-person event last February, I can still close my eyes and go back to some of those conversations and some of that. So obviously we have it coming up. It's about 100 days away, folks. So start buying your tickets. We've only sold 90. So we've got, 300 or so more to go. But yeah, getting in the room with other people going the same direction, that is something I think we've created. By coming back, talking to each other every week, now doing hundreds, if not thousands of videos together. We've created a tribe, a community of people that are going the same direction. Some of them will go high on the mountain. Some of them will go to a certain level, chill out on a vista, but they're all going the same way. So that in-person event that's coming up is pretty important, I think.
I agree. I think it's always important to, I used to close a lot of my deals on the phone. but on the extra special ones, I'd go in person.
Oh yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
I think that's what this is. I think it's, when you meet somebody physically, it has different things pass in your body, different emotions, and I think that it becomes more real. And it's I'm thrilled. We're excited to go. We're excited to go. We got the kids being watched, and so we're gonna go out, just the two of us.
Oh, the two of you are going to go to a show, a little
Do everything.
romantic weekend for Valentine's Day.
Sure.
Special. Dion, you got one more. You got
We're
one more
sharing an
thing.
Airbnb, and I think Matt's afraid I would corrupt his kids.
That's what he's going to leave them at home.
They've already spent time with Uncle Dion.
Oh, that's awesome.
And every single time he's on the screen, they're like, "That's Uncle Dion." I was like, "Yep."
Good looking guy. And last closing thought or last key to being a lazy multimillionaire, Dion?
So in the idea of being around the people who've done what you're trying to do and are lazy, I gave away an hour call on one of my videos recently, and Mikey won it. So
nice.
buzzed him. And so the caveat was they have to be going to the Vegas event and they have to want a 1 hour call with me. I get it. Not everybody's cup of tea. So in this video, in the comments, if you want a 1 hour call to win the 1 hour call, and you're coming to the one rental at a time event in Vegas, because you should buy your tickets because they're only going to go up in price between now and then. Not the tickets for the event, tickets for
Travel.
airfare.
Yes.
Right. Travel and lodging and everything. In the comments, put, I'm lazy. I'll respond to them for 2 days. Right. So if you're doing this in Futureland, sorry, you might have missed it. But for the next 2 days, I'll put in the comment, I'll number it. I've got what I call the dice of doom from my gaming sessions here. This will determine who wins.
Wow. Nice.
This is solid, Matt. This is great. Every gamer should have the dice of doom. And then we'll get on Zoom, and I call it an hour, but anytime I've booked an hour with somebody, we do the hour, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, we do another hour, because you have to process everything that was talked about, and let's see what we could do with it.
Man, that's amazing. That's such an honor that you do that. That's very cool. Matt, closing thoughts? Lazy multimillionaire?
Can't be lazy.
Not a bad thing, right? It's not a bad thing.
Can't be lazy in the beginning, and you can be lazy in the end. And how hard you work in the beginning often determines how lazy you can be in the end. So that's what I'm enjoying wrapping these projects up, because man, my level of lazy is going to be comatose. It's going to be freaking awesome.
Oh, it's going to be a competition. I love it.
It is.
Well, at the end of the day, folks, I think the keys to being a lazy multimillionaires, you can't do it in the beginning. You've got to realize it's a 100-mile race, not 100 meters. The mountains that we all are climbing offer vistas. You can choose to sit down. You can choose to stand up and go higher if you want. But I will tell you, as the three of us are living, breathing proof of, once you're chilling out in a vista and it really works, it's kind of hard to get up and keep moving forward. But you do have the right to, if you so choose. Guys, you're amazing. Take care.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.